A friend of mine got fired a few weeks ago from his job. It was a very typical story. He had been with the company for close to 20 years. He was very passionate about his job. However, the company had undergone a change in leadership. The people that were taking responsibility for the company no longer felt that he was a good fit, and because of that he was basically asked to leave the organization. Now, I'm sure we all know people like this in our network, and the interesting thing is that almost always we think that this is something that happens to other people, but it doesn't happen to us. And the interesting thing is that with digitalization accelerating and becoming a force that basically transforms society and industry, this is going to be something that will be increasingly common. And the question actually becomes then, what do you do? How do you prepare yourself when digitalization as a force basically sweeps across the industry? And I think that there are three things to keep in mind. The first is we as professionals have a responsibility to keep ourselves employable. Not employed, employable. You cannot control whether you are employed, but you can control the set of skills and knowledge that you have in order to make you attractive both for your current employer, but also for your future employer. And that means that if the unfortunate situation strikes that rather than you leaving your current employment, the employer decides that you're no longer a good fit, when that happens, at least what you have is a good set of skills that makes you quite attractive for new employers. So keep yourself employable is, I think, an important factor. The second aspect, which really baffles me, is I believe it is critically important to have a financial buffer. I know people that spend basically every dime that comes into their paycheck, and we all know the statistics of people that couldn't pay a major financial event such as a car breakdown or something else in that happens in their kitchen or in their with a washing machine or whatever. People that basically spend every dime that comes in. Now, that I think is very unwise in a situation where even as professionals, white-collar workers, the job security is simply not as high as it used to be in the past. So what you have to have is a financial buffer of at least 6 to 12 months of living expenses in order to make sure that you can actually tide over a situation where you would be without employment for a while. And the important thing here is don't rely on the government. Don't think that unemployment checks will get you there, because that's typically not how it works in practice. The third interesting fact, which I spent some time thinking about, is research shows that people generate the primary set of new opportunities in their lives through their weak network. And the weak network is people that you don't know well, but you have met at different points in the past and have some kind of relationship with, people that are on the boundary of what you would consider to be a network. That weak network is where new opportunities present themselves. So rather than saying, I don't have time for this, or I don't have time for this networking event or these conferences, that weak network is what will probably help you out if and when you would get into a situation when you would end up with a situation where the company decides that you're no longer a good fit. So I know that I normally talk about digitalization and the impact on companies and industries, but the effect of digitalization goes beyond companies as well. It also affects each of us as professionals. And what I wanted to do in this short video is to give a bit of a reflection on what I think is important to do as a professional to make sure that even when bad fortune strikes, you're not in a situation where you're completely out of options. So think about this, keep yourself employable, look into new technologies. AI, machine learning, deep learning is one of those technologies that I think is important. Keep a financial buffer, make sure you have at least 6 to 12 months of living expenses stored away. And finally, maintain your weak network. Go out, go to those networking events, be at conferences, because if bad things happen, at least you will have a network to fall back on. And with that, good luck.